What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the Rearview Mirror. I am your host, Flying Brian J. How this show is going to work is I'm going to talk about UFC Nashville, UFC Fight Night 108, looking in the rearview mirror, of course, and you're going to be my co-host. So I'm going to be looking in the comments a lot to see what you guys have to say about this event. Of course, below me here, I want you to vote for what post-fight letter grade you would give the card. I think most of you gave the pre-fight letter grade a C from A to F. So was the fight card better or worse than you expected? Usually I'm here with Wesley Riddle, and he's not here right now, basically because he didn't get to watch a lot of the fights because he was he was singing in a choir, I think. I think that's what's going on. Anyway, if you don't want to listen to the whole show right now, you can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes and all that jazz, and you can subscribe. And I'll put links here later if that's something that you want to be a part of. But ordinarily, Wesley and I, we do our WTF of the card. But I want to get to my WTF of the card right away. Now, Cub Swanson defeated Artem Lobov via unanimous decision, 4-1 across the board. But my WTF of the card is going to the commentators. And most of the night, there were a lot of fight fans, including myself, complaining about Todd Grisham. And he said shit like, should Eddie Wineland shoot for a takedown here since he's not winning on the feet against John Dodson? No, man, he's not a takedown specialist. He also said, should the judges show sympathy for Sam Alvey for being kicked in the nuts then poked in the eye? No, dude, what the fuck? But then in the main event, which just happened, if you weren't watching the fight, if you didn't have your peepers on the action and you were just listening to it, you would have thought Cub Swanson was fighting a fucking practice dummy. Because Brian Stan did not say anything good about Artem Lobov, like pretty much the entire time. Brian Stan was only talking about Cub Swanson, what he was doing in round number 1. That's all he talked about. And then beginning of the second round came up and they showed the stats, and Artem outlanded Cub Swanson by like 20 strikes in the first round. But Brian Stan did not say shit about it. And no, this isn't an indictment on Brian Stan as a commentator. I love the man. He's an American hero. I think he's a great commentator ordinarily. But tonight, because he used to train at Jackson Winklejohn, Cub Swanson trains with Jackson Winklejohn, he showed an outrageous amount of bias that was just like, what the fuck, man? Come on. So my WTF of the card goes to the commentating team. Just real annoyed by that. So that's my WTF of the card. Let's see if you guys are reacting to my WTF. Oh, yeah, next thing I need to do is I'm going to go over how MMA Mania's UFC Pick'em League turned out. In first place with getting 10 out of 13 right with 2,895 points was Max. Just Max. Second place was Flying Brian J. That is me. My real name is Brian Jeffries, if you did not know. 10 out of 13, 2765 was my score. 4 perfect. Third place, Shane, the Love Train Rail. Nice work, Shane, coming in third there. Fourth place, Astronaut, 11 for 13, but somehow, didn't have some perfects or something. Fifth place, Smoking Bizant. Smoking Blizzant. Oh, Smoking Blizzant. Yeah, nice. And Wesley Riddle, my ordinary co-host, came in 6th with an honorable mention coming in the top 5. Overall, right now the standings are Wes is in 1st, I'm in 2nd, Max is in 3rd, Franker's 4th, and Mughal is in 5th place. Now, let's talk about the main event here. I have some notes, so I want to pull them up so I can talk about it, pretty smart. So, in the main event there, of course, I think everybody scored the first round for Artem Lobov, and a little bit of it's not a shock because Cub Swanson isn't a fast starter. But many people thought that Cub was going to blow Artem out of the fucking water, just, mop the floor with him. Not the case. I mean, he won a decision, and he clearly won the last 4 rounds. But Artem, like I mentioned, I can look up the stats real quick. That would probably be good. Let's look up the stats. First round, Artem landed 33 strikes to Cub Swanson's 18. So Artem landed 15 more strikes, almost 50% more strikes than Cub Swanson in that first round. And he also landed a takedown. So very, very clear first round in favor of Artem Lobov. Very surprising. Second round came out, and Lobov was winning the striking early, but then Swanson, they were in the clinch. Swanson hit him with a trip slash toss, takedown, and then was working for a rear naked choke. So obviously Cub got that round. Third round, Cub came out, and that's when he started being really creative, and that's when Cub started getting loose. Brian Stan, which was nice, he did some good things tonight. So I gave him the what the fuck for a little piece of it, but where he hit Artem with, what was it, the left hook and then left high kick, both on the same side, getting a little creative, and then like calling it out afterward. That was some fun stuff. Fourth round came out, and that's when Cub got his jab going and was stifling Artem's forward pressure. You know, Artem's corner was saying, we need that forward pressure. We need to take away the spacing from Cub, especially because Artem has short arms and he, you know, uses more hook kind of offense. He doesn't use straight punches out of distance. He's in close. So he was pressuring Cub, and Cub was getting the jab out to keep him at bay. Got the better of him there. And then fifth round, they did a lot of clinching, and Cub was getting the better of Artem there. And, of course, they stopped the fight briefly. I forget what round it was, but Artem had a cut on his eyelid. And, you know, Artem talked a lot of shit leading up to the fight. A lot of respect shown afterward. Cub definitely needs to take some time off. I said in my pre-fight breakdown that Cub, he's coming back too soon off of that war against Doo Ho Choi. I thought that he would finish Artem. I really, really did. I know both guys usually go to a decision. I thought I could finish him here. Felt like he had some opportunities. He hit Artem with a left high kick once that wobbled Artem. He hit him with a lot of shots that wobbled him. He never capitalized on it, though. Artem would be on loose legs, on some Bambi deer legs, and Cub never like went for the kill. Whatever, though. It was a pretty impressive fight, pretty fun fight to watch. So before we transition into the co-main event, let me give my grade for the card. So I said before the card that I would give it a C+ to a B-, and I think in the end, let me just look at the finishes, like how things worked out. Really, I would stick with a B-. You know, there was a lot of fun things that happened, but Dodson versus Wineland, I predicted would be fight of the night, was a lackluster affair. People were booing a lot, so I was a little disappointed there. Really good spots. Maybe I'll just give it, I'm actually going to end up giving it just a straight up B. So if I were voting, I would give it with a shocked face in the Facebook vote, but down below. Now let's transition into talking about Raging Al Iaquinta versus Diego, the Nightmare Dream, Lionheart, Sanchez. Of course, Al Iaquinta, he got the knockout. It was a TKO. I got to pull up the Wikipedia. I think it was a TKO. Punches, very first round, very quickly into the round. I think there was 3:17 left to go. Total strikes landed. All Al needed to knock out or finish Diego was 12 punches, and he knocked him down twice in that. It's a little bit of fantastic on Al Iaquinta. You were off 2 years, and you came back, and you looked really, really good. It's a little bit of an indictment on Diego Sanchez. This is only the second time Diego's been finished. The first time, of course, was against Joe Lozon not too long ago. And people were a little bit shocked that Joe Lozon finished him. I was not shocked. And the reason for that is Diego, while he had never been finished before, he blocks punches with his face. That's not good. And he's been doing that for a super long time. Diego Sanchez's record is now 27-10, and 2 of his last 3 losses are via KO or TKO. This one was just 138 into the first round. So that's a lengthy career. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Diego should retire, and yes, I'm on that train a little bit that Diego should retire because he's already going to have speech impediment. He's already going to have a lot of things like CED. What the fuck is it? CED? You know what I'm talking about, right? The NFL thing. Brain trauma. Diego's going to have that. So maybe he should quit, but he's 2-2 in his last 4. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's win-loss since Ross Pearson back to 2014. So he's probably not going to retire, and if he was going to, he probably would have done so in the octagon. I want to get to a question here from Shane the Love Train Rail. He says, what was Al talking about selling houses in his post-fight interview? This was a what the fuck moment as well. This was in my honorable mention of the WTF of the card, super awkward post-fight interview from Al Iaquinta, and why he was saying that he's going to sell houses is the reason he sat out for 2 years before this fight was that he wants more money. But he already signed a contract with the UFC, but he wanted more money. After beating Jorge Masvidal, he thought that he deserved more. He was trying to negotiate with them, but they're like, bro, you signed a contract, so you kind of have to fight for us under the contract that you already signed for the dollar amount that you already signed. So he said, hey, fuck you, I'm going to go sell houses and be a realtor. So for the last 2 years, Al has been using his somewhat UFC fame to supposedly sell houses. So what he was doing in the post-fight interview was it's a bargaining chip, or he's trying to bargain with the UFC. So he knocked out a lifelong UFC guy and Diego Sanchez, a legend and stuff like that. He's got, let's look at his record. He has some huge names on his record. I think that was his 5th victory in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5th victory in a row. 4 out of 5 via stoppage, and the one that wasn't a stoppage was against Jorge Masvidal, who's a really good fighter, of course. So he was saying, hey, pay me or I'm going to go sell houses, basically. He didn't convey that as well as he should have, but that's what he was getting at. Super awkward post-fight interview. He wanted to curse, but he couldn't curse. Why not just let him curse and bleep the shit out? Give us like a 45-second delay, and if dumbass in the truck can't bleep out the F-bomb in 45 seconds, fire his dumbass and I'll come work for him, right? Anyway, let's move down to the card. That was a fun fight. Super fun fight. Roger D'Artes wants to know what OSP wanted from Dana White in his post-fight interview. I've got some notes about this one too, I believe. Let's talk about it. Okay, yeah, so in the first round of Ovince St. Preux versus Marcos Rogerio Pejao de Lima, very first round, Pejao comes out, landed, let's look at the stats. I think he landed a lot of kicks. I think he landed 15 strikes, and most of them were kicks on Ovince. Ovince was really biding his time. Second round comes out, and the first kick that Rogerio de Lima threw, Ovince caught it, took the fight to the ground, and Rogerio de Lima has a penchant for quitting, and he seemed like he quit a little bit, but Ovince is the first fighter in UFC history to score 2 Von Flue chokes, which is kind of like an arm triangle, but you're not in the right spot, and you're pushing your shoulder down into their throat when they don't let... They're not in a position to lock in a guillotine choke, so to lock in the guillotine choke, you want to be in full guard. So you're trying to lock in the guillotine, but the guy you're trying to choke is in side control on the side of where your arm is trying to choke them. And Rogerio wouldn't let go of that. So what St. Preux does is just press down until he locks his hand behind his head and presses down with his shoulder, cut off the air there. So second time that Ovince has done that. First time was against Nikita Krylov. It's a weird submission, and I saw a tweet. I forget who said it, so just look for these words that I'm going to say. It's interesting that it's the one submission where it's not only a good thing for the choker, but an indictment on the chokee. So that was something. What do I think Ovince St. Preux was saying in his post-fight interview, what he wants from Dana White? I think that he has a fight in mind that he wants, and he wants Dana White to say what it should be. And I was trying to look at the rankings while that was happening to figure out who I thought Ovince should fight next. And I couldn't really figure it out. You know, he lost to Volkan Ozdemir, and Volkan Ozdemir is fighting Misha Cirkunov pretty damn soon. And I thought that, why don't I have the rankings pulled up? Brian, pull it together, buddy. I thought that Ovince St. Preux, since he lost to Volkan Ozdemir recently, if Misha Cirkunov were to beat Volkan, I thought Ovince should fight Misha Cirkunov. And if not, let me pull the rankings up here. I had it. Maybe I didn't write it down. But I wanted to see who would be next for Ovince St. Preux. Now, this is an aging fighter who's very limited in his skill set, but because the light heavyweight division is so damn shallow, he has a very few select amount of fighters who he could fight next. Ovince is number 8 in the world. Ilir Latifi is number 9. Maybe that's something that he could do. He already defeated Mauricio Shogun Rua, who somehow... Mauricio is number 4 in the world in the light heavyweight division. That is a real indictment on the light heavyweight division. Jack Mooney says give him Tyson Pedro. Fuck it. Let's go with that. Couple of guys here, Adam Lawson and Keith Derek Friesen, wants to talk about Sam Alvey versus Talis Latis. So let's cruise on down to that, and then we will come back to John the Magician Dodson versus Eddie Wineland. So I don't know if you guys could see it, but I could see it in the corner between rounds. Sam Alvey told his corner that the very first kick that Talis Latis threw hurt his ankle, and they showed it on the replay when I think they came back from commercial break. Talis threw a low kick very early. I believe it was on the right leg of Sam Alvey, and it kicked his leg out wide, right? So he had to adjust himself with his left leg, but I think he probably sprained his ankle when his right leg was going out wide. His left ankle kind of seemed to be goofy, and then because Sam is a southpaw fighter, so his left leg is the one that he's putting pressure on as he moves forward to strike, with that left hand. And Sam, his mobility was really, really limited from the very first moment of that fight. And if you were here in the pre-fight, I predicted that fight was not going to be a very fun one. Yeah, I predicted it wasn't going to be a very fun fight, and it wasn't. There was a lot of lackluster moments, and here's the striking. Here's the strikes landed. 44 for Latis, 50 for Sam Alvey, but I think clearly Talis Latis won the first 2 rounds and then got really tired or maybe cruised and lost the 3rd round. But look at the striking. Significant strikes landed was 12 to 11 for Latis in the 2nd round, and then Latis actually had more significant strikes than Sam Alvey in the 3rd round, but very close fight, very lackluster fight. We're skipping back a little bit. Adam Lawson said, is Serkinov booked? Let him beat up Ovin St. Preux next, if not. Now, he is booked. I mentioned that already. Serkinov is scheduled to fight Volkan Ozdemir. Let me look exactly when it is. In May 28th of 2017, so just in a month and 5 days from now. But I think that if Misha beats Volkan, I think he will beat Volkan. I think then you make Misha versus Ovin St. Preux, and the timing of that just makes so much sense. Let's move back up and talk about Eddie Wineland versus John the Magician Dodson. Now, there's not a lot to say here, but I did write some notes. So, yeah, basically, John Dodson was just too fast. Eddie Wineland was saying it in his corner between rounds. John, he could hit Eddie with a jab, back out from it, let Eddie swing at air, and then come back in with a right straight before Eddie really even knew what happened. And that happened over and over and over again. John, jab, pulls back out, Eddie swings a couple times at air, and then here comes John with a straight. And then, so he's just doubling up. And basically that's how many strikes were landed in the fight, 48 to 21. John was just doubling up on Eddie. Eddie could not get a bead on the speed of the Magician. And this is the fight where one of the times that I thought Todd Grisham was being a fucking dumbass, because he asked Brian Stan, like a casual fan, should Eddie go for takedowns? Eddie doesn't go for takedowns, brother. He's just going to swing wild and hope he lands on that chin. He's not going to take John Dodson down. Guy blow. Pull it together, buddy. Moving down. Joe Lozon, Stevie Ray. First round comes out. Joe took Stevie down and was raining down with some decent ground and pound. 4 minutes of control in a 5-minute round. 30 total strikes landed. Was just really working over Stevie Ray. Went for a submission attempt. Beautiful round from Joe Lozon. 2 of the judges gave it 10-8 for Joe Lozon in that first round. Second round comes out, and Joe was already visibly gassed. And then Stevie Ray was able to catch up with, he was landed a whole bunch more strikes than Joe, and he got the round by landing 20 more significant strikes to Joe. And even though Joe got a late takedown, I think it was a clear round for Stevie Ray. Third round comes out, and Joe is super, super gassed. And then Stevie laid on some heavy punches to Joe. I think it was Brian Stan was saying he thought Joe was coasting. I thought he was hurt late in the fight there. You remember when Joe Lozon fought Raging Ally Aquinta and Joe wouldn't go down, but he was just eating punch after punch after punch after punch, going from fence to fence, just taking it on the chin a whole bunch of times. Very late in that round, I thought Joe could have been out on his feet, and the same thing could have been happening. Stevie Ray was really putting it on him. But both guys showed a lot of heart. I forget who said it. Adam Lawson said it. Adam's my my best friend. He's always here. Really appreciate him. And I really appreciate every one of you guys. But thanks a lot, Adam, for hanging out. So, and then two of the judges, but not the same two that gave the first round 10-8 to Joe, they gave a 10-8 to Stevie Ray in the third round. So one of them gave 10-8s in both of them. But then the other two judges flip-flopped. One was 10-9 first round, and the guy that gave it 10-9 first round for Joe gave it 10-8 for Stevie in the third. And I think both rounds could be a 10-8. I thought it was going to be a draw. Very close fight. I picked Stevie Ray. I had him in a parlay. So I was glad Stevie Ray was able to pull it out. Very close fight. Hate seeing Joe Lozon lose because he's such a nice guy. But then in the post-fight interview, Stevie Ray, best post-fight interview of the night, he said that he had a ton of respect for Joe Lozon. And he said to the crowd, hey, I know you're cheering for the American. You're sad that he didn't win. But I'm here working my tail off. And it'd be great if you could cheer me and maybe be a fan of mine down the road. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And it was a humble post-fight interview. It was in a Scottish accent, of course. So it was a little bit of fun stuff. Jake the Juggernaut Ellenberger got knocked out by Mike Perry at 3:54. So with a minute 6 into round number 2. Jake won the first round. I think he got a takedown on Mike Perry, a little bit of top control, 26 seconds of that. He landed more strikes, I believe, in the first round than Mike Perry. That's false. So maybe I shouldn't have scored the first round for Jake Ellenberger. It's a little bit, I think everybody in the world is biased against Mike Perry because he comes across as an ignorant douche. And maybe that's what he's going for. He wants to be hated, so we care. And it's working. I want to watch his fights not only because he's an exciting fighter, has phenomenal punching power. He's going to stand and bang. He's not going to wrestle hump anybody ever. Right? He's not going to Jared Rosholt anybody. But he just seems a little bit ignorant, a little bit racist and all that jazz. But in the post-fight, he showed a lot of respect for Jake Ellenberger, and he wasn't that much of a douche in the post-fight interview. I think it was a left hook that he dropped Jake early on in the second round with. And then he just brought Jake back to the feet, as you should. You don't want to go to the ground when you're this guy that has amazing punching power. And then he hit him with a short right elbow that dropped Jake. People are calling it a knockout of the year contender. If that's in the top 5 knockout of the year list when we get to the end of the year, we have not seen very many great knockouts this year. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one that's better per se, but it wasn't that great. Was it? No, I don't think it was. So Mike Perry, he said, who wants it next? Who wants to have their life changed next? And Brian Stan said, well, let's just turn that question back onto you. Who do you want next to fight? And he said, hey, how about the guy that beat the guy that I just fought? My last opponent. So he's calling out Gunnar Nelson, kind of, in a shitty little call out. I don't want that because I want Gunnar Nelson to fight Wonderboy Thompson because of the stylistic matchup. That's fucking a crazy fun stylistic matchup. Wonderboy versus Gunnar Nelson with their crazy karate style stance, where Gunnar has a severe advantage on the ground and it'll test Wonderboy's striking defense a little bit. Just stylistically, that's the fight that I want to see. So what do we do with Mike Perry instead? And just looking at the rankings, Santiago Ponzinibbio is really close to the rankings of Mike Perry. And if we're looking at stylistic fun matchups, since we're giving Wonderboy to Nelson, I think we should, then Ponzinibbio, where he throws, hooks, fun, really hard puncher, that's a recipe for violence right there. And I think that we give Mike Perry to Santiago Ponzinibbio next, and let's have it happen in Brazil. And let's all cheer very loudly for Santiago Ponzinibbio. Moving down Jack Mooney says that fight is absolute war potential. And yeah, that would be a fucking crazy fun fight. We already talked about latest Alvey, so we're skipping that, going to Dustin Ortiz versus Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. First round came out and Ortiz basically did some Jared Rosholt type of stuff. At first, he was having a lot of trouble getting Brandon Moreno down. Moreno was looking for the Kimura for the sweep to get back to his feet. He was really good at getting his back to the fence as soon as Dustin would go in for the takedown. Really good at getting back up. Dustin was able to lock his hands underneath of the hips of Moreno, which is essential for getting those takedowns. He did control him a little bit on the ground. And then I thought that on the feet, Moreno would be able to get the better of Ortiz. Second round came out after Dustin clearly won the first round. And Dustin was winning the striking on the feet against Moreno, basically because Dustin was faster and he was throwing with more volume. But he dropped his right hand. I believe he threw like a combination, dropped his right hand. And Moreno, I'm digressing a little bit. Moreno had thrown the left high switch kick a bunch of times, maybe like 4 times in the first round, was unable to do it. Second round, Dustin went for a combination because Dustin was working body head really well, like a right hand to the body, left hand to the head, both hooks, of course. And Moreno was able to time that switch that landed, like he said, Moreno said it was on the neck, but it was basically like right behind the ear on the lower skull was where the force seemed to happen. On the upper neck, Brandon Moreno landed that switch kick on Ortiz, dropped him, then got his back. Look for a little bit of ground and pound. Dustin was able to get back, to bring his wits back to him a little bit, but Moreno got the back, got in that figure 4 triangle body lock, and then searched for that rear naked choke and was able to find it with 122 left to go in round number 2. Incredible performance from Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. I don't expect... The Pinata Maker has really surprised me. I thought he was for sure going to make a quick exit from the UFC after TUF. That's what I love about this guy. It's one of my favorite things. He came in after losing in the first round on TUF, right? Because he was like the 16th seed. So he lost in the first round of the Ultimate Fighter, the champion edition. He comes in as like a plus 500. I believe Luis Smolka was like minus 800 to the comeback on Brandon Moreno at plus 500 in his official UFC debut, coming in on short notice and hit that high elbow guillotine on Luis Smolka. Then he defeated Ryan Benoit in his second fight. And then Dustin Ortiz, I think he's in the top 10. Oh, I was looking at it. No, I wasn't looking at it. Dustin Ortiz was number 9 in the world in the flyweight division. And the Assassin Baby comes out and finishes him in the second round. Woo! So what's next for the Assassin Baby? I mean, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of guys who just fought in the lightweight division, and so they could make similar turnarounds as the Assassin Baby. And Tim Elliott, he just beat Luis Smolka in Kansas City. I was there. But so Tim beat the number 12 flyweight. Well, he might have dropped. Anyway, so Tim beat the number 12 flyweight, and Brandon, the Assassin Baby Moreno, just defeated the number 9 flyweight. And I think that because of the timing of the two things, and because how fun would the grappling exchanges be between the two, Tim Elliott versus Brandon, the Assassin Baby Moreno, is the next fight to make. That just makes a lot of sense. I think that all of us fight fans, we would love to see the scrambles that would happen with that. Both guys have some pretty good cardio. Both guys, I think, have personalities that are enjoyable. And that would be a fun fight to make. Tim Elliott versus Brandon Moreno, that's my pick for the next fight to make with these guys. Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman defeated Michael McBride via decision. Michael McBride showed a lot of heart. He ate 100 and... Wow. Seeing the stats after the fights are over, it's something that interests me because the strikes landed between Michael McBride and Scott Holtzman, 140 for McBride, 109 for Holtzman. But Holtzman was landing full power shots on McBride's chin, his straight up and down chin, and McBride throws those arm punches. I talked about it before the fight card. He doesn't move his torso. He doesn't take the power from his fucking heel like you should. You know, it comes from your foot. You got the hip rotation, shoulder rotation, and throw it in there. Michael McBride's out there just arm punching. And so maybe he landed 140 strikes, but Holtzman was, ducking down in the stance and then coming up with full force. A lot of torque in those babies. Knocked McBride down once. On the ground, McBride was getting the better of Holtzman, especially at the beginning of round number 2. Holtzman was getting himself in some bad predicaments. McBride was looking for that Kimura, I believe, was able to sweep Holtzman, look for some submissions, but then Holtzman was able to do basically the same thing, reverse position and get on top of McBride. But then when Holtzman was on top, he wasn't looking for submissions. He was basically controlling, doing some Rochat type of stuff, just keeping McBride on the ground and keeping him at bay. Moving down, Jessica Panay versus Daniel Taylor. 1 second here. I gotta I don't want to talk about that fight. I just don't. It was awful. Daniel Taylor, I know that you should use movement. You should use footwork to get yourself into places where you can land good strikes. But it just seemed like she... Let me be clear here. Jessica Penne didn't deserve to win the fight any more than Daniel Taylor deserved to win the fight. So Daniel Taylor winning, whatever. She won. She deserved it. I don't want to watch her fight ever again. There's times where, like, being a hardcore fan and liking techniques and liking strategy, it merges with being a Just Bleed fan. And they collide. And I found myself a little bit of this fight being more of a Just Bleed type of fan. Because Daniel, she did land some hard hooks on Penne's face. She did. That's the truth. But most of the time she was using footwork, it seemed, to avoid any and all confrontation. And I hate her fighting style. I'm sorry. She doesn't have any personality that, I can forgive her for her shitty fighting style. So, I talked about it too long. Daniel Taylor beat Penne via decision. Alexis Davis versus Cindy Dandois. And I wrote in my notes that I didn't want to talk about this fight either, but I do want to talk about it a little bit. I saw a lot of people talking shit on Cindy's striking. Jack Mooney, going back to Daniel Taylor, her fight against Moroz was an absolute stinker. Now she's involved in another terrible fight. And also, her fight against Sihuohi Ham was not great either. That's 3 in a row, and 2 were fucking horrible. 3 in a row that were forgettable, completely forgettable. So she's 3-0, right? She's 2-1. She lost to Moroz. It's not good. Anyway, Cindy Dandois versus Alexis Davis. I thought this was a questionable decision as well. The judges definitely gave Alexis Davis credit for hitting 2 submission attempts off of her back against Cindy Dandois. On the feet, a lot of people were talking shit about Cindy Dandois striking. While it looked horrible, while it looked awkward as fuck, she was kind of getting the better of Alexis sometimes on the feet, in that she was willing to throw punches. Because after the first round, it seemed Alexis was gassed to fuck. And so Cindy, she was moving forward. She was throwing some shitty punches, but by golly, she was landing said shitty punches. And then as soon as Alexis would fire back with also shitty punches, but less shitty, like just one notch better, Cindy would hit a takedown. And it seemed, I tweeted this, Alexis Davis, if it was a video game and we were to put in attribute points for takedown defense, Alexis Davis has negative. Whoa. Horrible takedown defense. None at all. Cindy Dandois took her down at will. 5 takedowns. And they were from the other fucking side of the octagon, and they weren't good, and she whoop like butter. Woo. Horrible, horrible fight. Could you believe that it was even UFC caliber competition that was happening? I hardly believed it myself. Shitty, shitty fight. I actually scored it 2-1 for Cindy Dandois because she did have 2 of those rounds. She was definitely on top for the majority of it, but the judges gave... And here's the thing. So you should score... People say you should, but I don't follow rules. They say that you're supposed to score fights how you score them. I usually try to score fights how I think the judges are going to score them. Because I'm not actually in the chair. I'm trying to predict what the judges at the event will score it. That's what I'm doing most of the time. Until it gets to like the main event, co-main event, where the fights actually mean something, then I will score them how I see them. So then basically MMA fans like to get upset about stuff. So if there's a robbery, I can be like, well, I scored it like this, and then we can get upset about it. But anyway, I scored it 2-1 Dandois. I picked Davis, so I was glad the judges were giving Davis credit for hitting submissions off of her back. Brian Bam Bam Barberena. Bam Bam knocked out Joe Proctor with 134 left to go in round number 1. Proctor only landed 8 strikes. Both guys were doing the Diaz brother what thing, like bring it on, motherfucker, talking shit, like throw strikes at me. The last time Proctor did it, I gotta look at my notes. Did I write notes? I didn't write notes. Barberena, I believe, hit Proctor with a left hook that put Proctor down, and then close the show from there. Great showing from Brian Barberena. This feels like it was like a goddamn day ago, an entire day ago. First fight of the night, Hector Sandoval knocked out Matt Schnell with 34 seconds to go in round number 1. Hector was landing the Team Alpha Male overhand right a bunch on Schnell, was hurting him a little bit. Went in for a takedown, I believe. Schnell hit him with a guillotine. Hector showed a lot of core strength, a lot of just pure physicality and will, and slammed his own head basically on the canvas to slam Matt Schnell on the canvas, and then pulled his head out of the guillotine and then hammer-fisted Matt Schnell into snooze mode. I picked Matt Schnell. I was wanting Hector to win. I don't know why I switched, but I should have picked Hector. I like Hector. He's a super small dude. I love how fast he is. Fucking incredibly fast. And then I mentioned his core strength. He's 4'8", right? He's all core, almost. No, I'm kidding, but he's so strong and so fast as this tiny little guy, and he's fun to watch, and I don't expect big things from him, but I'm going to be excited to watch his fights in the future because he's an exciting guy. Now, before I look at Twitter for what the official fight of the night bonuses were, let me give out some post-fight bonuses. So, do you give a post-fight bonus to Ovin St. Preux because he's the first guy ever to get 2 Von Flue chokes? I think you probably do. So, Ovin St. Preux gets $50,000 from Flying Brian J. Ally Aquinta gets an extra $50,000 for knocking out Diego Sanchez in the first round. Man, but then Mike Perry, he knocked out Jake Ellenberger, and what people are saying is a knockout of the year contender. So maybe you give one to him. Okay, I'm taking back St. Preux. St. Preux isn't getting one. It's Ally Quinta, Mike Perry for performance bonuses, and then Joe J-Lo Lozon versus Stevie Ray Vaughan is getting my fight of the night. Let me quickly look to see what the real bonuses were. Oh, fuck. Moreno with that great submission, too. Jeepers creepers. So maybe we take away the fight of the night from Lozon and Stevie Ray, and then we give out St. Preux, Ally Quinta, Ellenberger, and the Assassin Baby for performance bonuses. Woo! Since it's my rules, I'm giving out all 4 of those and a fight of the night. So that's what we're doing. Because, do you guys agree? Tell me, please. Do you agree that Lozon versus... Lozon versus Stevie Ray was fight of the night? The UFC doesn't agree, so... I've got a bead on the official bonuses. Yeah. Okay, so the official bonuses are Cub Swanson versus Lobov getting the fight of the night, extra 50. Okay, sure. Moreno and Mike Perry getting the performance bonuses of the night. I don't necessarily agree with Artem versus Cub getting fight of the night. It's what do you call that? Confirmation bias? Or like hindsight 2020 bias? Because everybody thought that Cub Swanson was going to murk Lobov, and then Lobov pulled out a round over him, similar to Tim Elliott versus Mighty Mouse. Everyone thought that Tim Elliott was going to get murked because Elliott won the first round and then got murked like the last 4 rounds. It was like a sweet fight, but because it was more competitive than expected. Maybe that's happening with Artem Lobov versus Cub Swanson. But Lobov versus Cub Swanson does not deserve fight of the night, in my opinion. I'm giving fight of the night definitely to Stevie Ray versus Joe J-Lo Lozon. So I think that's the end of the show. I can answer any and all questions that you guys have. If not, I just would like to ask you to please subscribe to MMA Mania on iTunes and SoundCloud or SoundCloud. And also on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/MMAmania.com with the DOT spelled out. And then on iTunes, I'll put a link in the description. Shane thought that Artem Cub was way better than Lozon Stevie Ray. Well, then, if that's the case, neither of them were great. Then let's give out 4 performance bonuses. Maybe it was better. Maybe it was better. Do you think Alvey will get in another fight before June to break the record? I don't know. Here's the thing. I know that I work for Vox Media, MMA Mania. I should be partially unbiased. I should have no bias at all. But I don't. I'm sorry, guys. I don't like Sam Alvey's gimmick. I just don't. I don't like his smiling. It seems fake. It seems super fake to me. His post-fight interviews are... they're not good. And he throws like one strike per 2 minutes. So I don't care if he breaks the record or not. He's a fan favorite, and I don't understand why. Yeah, he knocked out he knocked out Dan Kelly, who Dan Kelly's doing great shit now. But I'm just not a huge Smiling Sam Alvey fan. So that's it. Shane says that Lozon was completely out of it for the last 2 rounds. Yeah, you're probably right. But because of the momentum shifts, I thought the momentum shifts were more severe. Because we had a 10-8 and then a 10-8 at the beginning and at the end for opposite fighters. I was just thinking of that for Fight of the Night reasons. But, okie doke. Yeah, the Russian Hammer, it was a stand-up slugfest. Yeah, it kept me on the edge of my seat a little bit. Artem winning the first round was very surprising. Artem did seem to hurt Cub in like the second round before getting hurt himself. Was it the second round? So, okay, I concede. Lobov or Swanson can be Fight of the Night. What's next for Artem? I don't know. I think tonight he proved that rankings don't mean shit for him. Just don't give him a grappler. Stop giving the man grapplers. Give him other fun fights that are going to be stand-up affairs. He's got a really good chin. People said Doo-Ho Choi would dispatch of Artem Lobov really, really early. I don't think that's the case. If Doo-Ho probably needs more time off, but I don't think Doo-Ho has a fight booked. How about we just do Doo-Ho versus Artem Lobov? Why not? That'd be fun. It'd be a fun fucking fight. Don't make it a main event or anything. Maybe a co-main event or an FS1 headliner for a pay-per-view portion, because you know it's going to be a stand-up affair, which I forgot to mention maybe. In the first round of Cub Swanson versus Artem Lobov, how surprised were you that Artem went for a takedown and got it? I was shocked. I was shocked about that. I think Artem should fight ranked guys next. I think Artem is a guy who obviously has a huge following because he's getting the extra shine from Conor McGregor. Just give him fun matchups. Don't give him stuff that's going to be working him toward contendership. Just give him fun, stylistic fights. And off the top of my head, it's Doo-Ho Choi. Like, don't give him Mirsad Bektik because Mirsad's going to wrestle him. Don't give him Darren Elkins because Darren Elkins is going to wrestle him. Maybe Renan Barao for the funness of... Renan Barao would murk him, I think. But just hear me out. Hear me out for a second. Renan Barao because he's Nova União. Jose Aldo. Then you got Straight Blast Jim. The Russian Hammer. Conor McGregor. See what I'm saying? Another Straight Blast Jim versus Nova União type of thing. Maybe Renan Barao. So either Renan Barao or Doo-Ho Choi. That's who I want next for... And if we're just going off competitiveness, Artem Lobov, unranked, shitty record, just went the distance with Cub Swanson and had a lot of bright spots. So that's what I want. Shane Burgos versus Artem Lobov. Shane Burgos, wouldn't he just... Man, that sounds more dangerous. Artem versus McGregor. Good one, Shane. Good one, Shane. Yeah, anyway. Yes, once again, at the end here, quickly, I'm just going to talk like we're buddies. I got annoyed one time I was doing this show, and at the beginning I asked you guys to subscribe to my iTunes, subscribe to my YouTube, or not mine, MMA Mania's iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, and like my Facebook page. And I got a couple of messages that were like, bro, stop begging for likes and shit. Like, it's what I'm here for. My job is to engage y'all in conversation and get you to click on other things. So why would you be getting mad at me for asking you to help me out on my other avenues of content? Anyway, so I wait till the end, ask you guys now to like me at all those places, and I would appreciate that. Shane, I looked into getting it on Podcast Addict, but Podcast Addict just pulls from iTunes, so We'll try with that. And I've been trying to get the podcast on Stitcher, but like Stitcher emailed me and were like, "Oh, sorry, you're gonna need to talk to somebody else so we can get you on there." Like, dude, fucking just get us on there. I've tried for like a month, douchebags. So Stitcher's not, they're on my shit list right now, but we'll get it on there. Every Thursday night, I'm gonna be doing Fight Nerds, where we do Geeked Out, which we look back at the last week and say what like we got excited about. Walk the walk. How far would we walk in order to be allowed to watch each fight card? And then in the last segment, we'll do all that MMA news, where we just talk about the latest ramblings, rumors, news in the MMA world. Quick prediction for Poirier versus Alvarez. I think it's so hard to pick. I'm picking Poirier. Alvarez, I don't know. Sure, Alvarez has the wrestling, but Poirier is really good on the ground. He's good with that Darce choke, right? And then on the feet, it should be pretty even. Maybe Alvarez... I think Alvarez got kind of lucky getting the championship over RDA. And I love Poirier. I watched... If you haven't watched it, it's super old now, but Poirier has a documentary that was on Netflix. I forget what it was, but... So it was a documentary of Poirier when he was in the lower leagues that documents like when he got to the WEC before getting to the UFC. It's a really fun documentary, and it showed a side of him that you don't see in the octagon, and I really liked it. Give the podcast addict guy your iTunes URL, and he'll add it. Yeah, okay. I'll have to talk to you about that later, Shane, and I'll try to get that hooked up. But anyway, yeah, follow me on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ. Like my Facebook page. It's not up here, but just facebook.com/FlyingBrianShow. Like us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, all that shit. I'm going to get out of here, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Really appreciate you, and I'll see you. We're going to do it on... There's no fight card next week. The next one is, I believe, UFC 211, which is in 3 weeks from now. We have 2 Saturdays off. Yeah, May 13th, UFC 211. But I will see you every Thursday, where I will do Fight Nerds, and we'll talk about recent events. And hopefully I can ask for listener questions, and we can just make like a whole listener question episode. That'd be really cool. So follow me on Twitter, and that's where I will post about what we're going to be doing with that. But yeah, as always, guys, I really appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out, Jack and Shane and Adam. I really appreciate you guys. Namaste.